How many of you have allowed alcohol to get in the way of growing your company? Well, today's guest, Matt Hartie, did exactly that. Not only did he give up alcohol, but he built and successfully exited his recruitment business, all from making that one decision. Matthew, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Yeah?
Good, yeah, great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
No, pleasure. So, very informal chat. Just want to understand a bit more about you, your life as a founder of a successful business that at some point recently I know that you've just exited. But first of all, I want to understand a bit about you. So tell me about Matt, backstory. How did it all begin? Life for you.
Wow. Well, how far back do you want me to go?
I'm keen to understand, like, as you went into business. So what took you into business?
So I guess a good place to start would be me leaving school. Because
Yeah.
I suppose it all kind of links a little bit into that. And left school with no qualifications. I wasn't particularly intelligent at school. I wasn't very academic. I was that sort of bottom class guy. Self-fulfilling prophecy that surrounded that. Wasn't really going very far. Left school at 16. Started working on building sites. Sort of accepted that was going to be my life, if you like. And then I just realised at some point that I just can't live my life as a labourer. I feel like I've got a little bit more to give to the world than this. I managed to get a foot in the door within the recruitment industry. So phoned a friend up one day on a landline. Remember them?
Yeah, landlines. Yeah, bloody hell.
Having had a tough day on a seventh floor of a building site, freezing cold in the snow, and said to him, "I can't do this anymore. There's got to be more to life. Do you know anyone that's looking to hire?" And he said, "Actually, there's a role in Romford as a recruitment consultant that you might suit you. Why don't you give this guy a call and grab an interview?" And I suppose that's where it all started, right? Because I think recruitment's one of those industries that's so entrepreneurial, even to this day. And it's very much about what you put in is what you get out. And the guy that hired me said that to me day one: "You've just got to work hard." And coming off a building site and feeling the way that I felt about myself, it was like, listen, I'll work 7 days a week, 20 hours a day if I have to. If it gets me out of that, and I can put a suit on, and I can feel a bit more respectable, and I can look like I'm making something of myself, right? That's what it comes down to, doesn't it? Like you feel like you're letting yourself down, but then you're letting your parents down. All that sort of stuff kind of factors into it. When I said to him, like, so how much does your biggest biller bill, and how hard does he work to bill that? Got the information, and I just added onto it. So, well, I'll work 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, and I might not be as good as him, but I'll outwork him. And that's what I've done. So I started, and it probably won't come as much of a surprise, but within a very short space of time, became quite successful. If not the biggest biller, one of the biggest billers in there, and that equation that I'd mapped out for myself, that story that I started to tell myself was work hard equals success.
So you just mentioned there, sort of, you want to make a success of yourself. What did you think success was prior to that? You talk about parents, and you want to be successful for them. What was driving you? What was there?
I think that. I think the biggest driver in my life has always been making my family proud.
Yeah.
I think that's always been the kind of monkey on my shoulder that's driven me. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm one of 5 boys in my mum and dad's clan, and it was just always very much around making them proud and showing it to my brothers and to the wider world that I'm capable of more than labouring on a building site.
Yeah.
That sort of set the stall out, if you like, and then obviously you do what you do, and you move jobs around, and you get better offers and that sort of stuff. But I was lucky enough to end up as a sales director of a recruitment business by the age of 25, 26. I went into a business and it was failing, and it influenced the people around me to work as hard as I was working to turn the business around. The owner kind of realised that and backed me from a fairly early stage. Within a year or so, she promoted me to sales director, and we were running, I can't remember now, 20, 25 staff, decent sized business. All the trappings of success, right? You know, I was driving around in a BMW X3 convertible, not X3, a BMW convertible.
Yeah.
You know, the talk of the town. You know, this guy's left school with no qualifications, and he's gone on to be successful in recruitment. The nice holidays, you know, the bought myself a flat, got myself a nice car, and you know, all the sort of stuff that you really want in life, the status things that push you forward. And I guess that ethos that I picked up very early on, which was just work hard, kind of resonated through.
Yeah.
Work within the corporate industry, that kind of ended, and then work within the corporate industry. Enjoyed that time, some really amazing training in them businesses. And then I got to a point where I think I was probably like 28, 29, where I'd been 10 years working for people, some pretty good relationships in the market, some pretty good team members around me. I just thought I could do it on my own. I just thought I can naively do it on my own. You know, I think that I thought quite long and hard about what made me think I could run a business. Do you know what I mean? Because I was like, you know, you've left school with nothing. You've got no qualifications. Your maths is shit. You know, your English is crap. What makes you think you can run a business? I think it was just blind naivety.
It's funny you say that, because I actually think a lot of the time naivety is the gift of a founder, because you just go with it. If you've got all the knowledge and all of the downside, and sometimes it actually makes it harder. Naivety is like the gift, because you just keep going. It sounds like that was you knew you could make money.
Yeah.
It sounded like you could make money. You just thought, well, I can go and do it on my own.
And I think that's you're absolutely right. I think most founders are the same. That they come out of a business and they go, well, I'm turning over that. My gross margin is that. You don't really know what your net profit is too much, because you're working in the business, but you know that you look at the fundamentals, and you arrive at a place where you think, no, I can do this. And actually, the business that I've just exited, and the business that I've been in, which was contract recruitment, is probably one of the hardest businesses to run, right? Because you've got a constant debt flow, you've got a constant cash flow issues. You know, you're consistently spinning plates. So at that time, I made the decision to do it. I had the buy-in of my whole team. I think there was about 4 or 5 of us at the time. So it wasn't like a fresh one-man band startup. It was already a business in the making. And I went out to the market and started talking to some joint venture partners around what that looks like. And back then there was a few, you know, I think Empresario were quite big in that space at the time. There's a couple of others whose names escaped me. But then one of my ex-colleagues introduced me to this gentleman by the name of James Kahn, and his business partner, Chris Burndees. This is pre-Dragon's Den and the sort of success he's had after that. He'd exited 2 businesses for substantial money, tens of millions of pounds, and he was back in the recruitment space looking for joint ventures. So, and he made it so simple. You know, I mean, when you're sort of out, when you're not that bright, and you're talking to sort of joint venture partners, they're giving you like contracts like that to read, and you know, I don't know about you, but I'm not great at sort of the detail when it comes to that sort of thing. James and I just sat down at his house in Holland Park and wrote down the basics of the business. What do you want? When do you want it? How are we going to get it?
Yeah.
Happy with that? Yeah, that seems simple. Should we just agree that's what we're going to do and do it? So we did. And that was my kind of entry into business, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was your sort of, as you went into that entrepreneur world, the founder world, what was it like for you going from what I'd say is maybe employed that employed world where you're doing well, into then suddenly it's on you, and it's down to you to be accountable day to day for everything. How was that transition? And I guess then from that transition, like, what did life start to be like from you, from that person that you was before?
Okay, so not loads changed, because you're going into business with a joint venture partner. There's somebody there you're not the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
Right? You're surrounded by really smart people that have grown businesses before, are currently growing businesses, are currently running businesses. So you almost go in with a little bit of a sort of a PAYE, still employed mentality, because you've got these people around you and they're protecting you from all the stuff that could go wrong, or they're averting the stuff that could go wrong. And we actually enjoyed some really amazing growth. Year one was tough, like most businesses, but we survived, and we survived mainly because we were surrounded by good people. Year 2 and 3 were amazing, and we got the business to a point by year 3 where it was on the market. And I look back on them days now, and I really appreciate the lessons learnt whilst I was in a room with some really smart people, right? And I wonder what would have happened had I not have taken that decision to go into a joint venture. Sadly, the sale didn't happen because some bankers had been selling mortgages that they shouldn't have been selling, and the whole world crashed.
2008.
Oh God, yes. I mean, you can imagine this young sort of 30-something new founder, enjoying all this great success. It seemed quite easy, to be honest, Danny. It was stressful, but easy-ish, because we'd done that. We got to a point where we were going to sell within 3 years. Now, most founders don't sell their businesses for sort of 10 years plus, if at all.
Yeah.
And we're 3 years in, and we're looking like an exit. A relatively decent number for somebody that's never done it before.
Yeah.
And I remember it really well. We'd done the deal in the December of 2007, right? And then we didn't sign the paperwork. We were still in negotiations over some detail, but it was basically going to happen. And then in the sort of January, February of the following year, the whole world just sort of seemed to come to, the whole recruitment world anyway, came to a complete standstill, and it then became a bit of a battleground. But even that, I sort of look back on that now, and it was horrendous at the time, because we spent, how long did that go on for? Was it 4 years?
Well, I was part of the restructure of RBS, and that was 2009. It's sort of 2008, 2009, and then it went on for, I was part of that restructuring leadership team for 5 years.
Yeah,
it was a 5-year journey.
So and again, I wasn't the smartest guy in the room. I was surrounded by some really phenomenal sales, recruitment people, business people that have been through recessions before. And I remember both James and Chris sitting in a boardroom saying, "This isn't a blip. This is a trend. So you need to go back to your businesses and you need to start managing them effectively. So you need to cut heads where you need to cut heads. You need to manage activity, not performance. All the stuff that scares the life out of you now. So but by doing that, I mean, we had probably 20, 25 staff at that point. So there was a lot of fat to cut over a fairly short space of time. But when you start managing activity rather than performance, you realise that without activity you're not going to get performance. So you need to start to really be quite brutal. And I think we cut the headcount by 50% within sort of 3 months.
Just on that, it's interesting because if you think of businesses right now, some of them might be navigating hard times, some of them are in growth phases, everyone's at a different phase. When you talk about activity versus performance, I guess for people listening, their ears might prick up and go, what does that actually look like on a day-to-day basis? So how was you going about that kind of process yourself? What did you have to do?
Well, all businesses work on sales flow. Recruitment's very much about job flow. Yeah. Right? And if you've got no job flow, then you're not going to make any money. That job flow will not convert into what's effectively going to be a deal.
Yep.
And the premise for us was to really get to grips with that job flow.
Right.
So what's coming through the door? What jobs are they? How committed is the client to hiring off the back of them jobs?
Yeah.
And what markets are really kind of drying up quickly that
Right.
you can shut down, or not so much shut down, but have a conversation with the consultants that are working in those spaces and potentially move them into spaces where there is still work going on. So, yeah, in our market, it's very much job flow. I think in other markets, it'd be probably just around sales flow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so coming through that, as you've navigated, what were your biggest sort of lessons as you're coming out of that phase of, I guess, that recessional period, right, and downturn? Yeah. How did you take it from where it is then through that period? What was your style of leadership? And looking back now, how's that impacted you where you are today?
I mean, at the time, I remember just feeling empty and a bit lost because I'm a performer, right? I've always performed. I've run a successful desk, always run a successful business. I've just come off the back of a really amazing sort of growth journey. The business was phenomenal. We were making money. I mean, that's what I'm used to. I'm used to sitting in boardrooms and talking about growth strategies and hiring and how we move the business forward, and then subsequently how do we sell the business, right? So to then be sitting in a room looking at your P&L or your board pack, and there's brackets on your P&L and red numbers,
red brackets,
killer. It took a bit of getting used to, and you then start talking about cash flow conversations and how do we pay the wages this month and who's getting paid and who isn't getting paid and how are you funding that loss going forward and all them sorts of conversations that at the time were horrendous, but now I look back and I'm grateful for the learning. I'm grateful for the people around me that installed them disciplines in me, because later on they've come to really help me. So I look back fondly of the time. I mean, we had some fun, we had some laughs, but it was hugely challenging, and to the point where I was just fatigued at the end. And we all sat down as a board and said, "Look, this business isn't viable for anybody. Can we exit?" So we exited that business to a trade buyer. I stayed on for a period of time, and then went off and set up the businesses that I've now exited.
Right. And that journey, I know there's a personal journey for you that sits alongside all of this, and there's a book that I think you've just put the ink.
Use the word book loosely, Danny, will you?
It's a very well written piece of work, right? Called The Best Man, and we'll come on to that. But I'm really sort of keen to say that from that journey of that exit into the new world, like, who was Matt becoming, and how was your journey and the decisions you were starting to make and impact sort of the future of you and some of these big decisions that I know that you've made along the way?
Again, I'm going to come back to that blind naivety piece.
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't remember having a strategic conversation with myself about where this is going.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is need. Yeah. Right. I needed to set up a new business. I needed to create an income. Throughout my life, things have happened to me that have required me to earn more money. Right. I've got a wife. Had a flat. I needed a house. I had some kids. All that stuff has needed me to go out and earn more money. And so that's what you do, right? As a hunter gatherer, as someone that works in the world that I work in, you just work harder, and you find ways to pay the bills. You find ways to satisfy what you need to satisfy. So I think going into the next sort of phase of my career, it was always very focused on exit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Why was that?
well, because I got so close before,
Right.
because I was so close to exiting the business that I'd set up with James early doors. It was
Unfinished business.
just needed to get there.
Yeah.
I could feel it. I was touching it. Right?
Yeah.
I think at the time it was more about just a bit of peace and quiet, right? Just set up a business, let's earn some money, see where it takes us.
And where did it take you?
Well, again, I think the economic challenges that this country has almost put us through over the years is left its scars on me, you know, because we started to build a good business, and then I think Brexit might have come along at some point, and that sort of kicked us a bit. The market sort of stagnated for us. So growth was difficult then. Managed to get rid of that, and then things started to move forward again for us. And then I took a break from alcohol.
What prompted that?
Well, I think I'm going to go back to set up a business, really, and the pressures that you have on you to grow your team. One of the things that we were always tasked with in our board meetings was where's your new headcount coming from? You're in recruitment, right? So where are you recruiting your new staff from? You've got to grow. Business has got to grow for it to have any kind of enterprise value. You need people making money, right? So what that done in turn was it then creates this kind of beast that means that you've got to be meeting these guys in the pub after work. Like if you're gonna pull someone out of a company and they're already doing quite well, yes, you can phone them and yes, you can have a conversation with them, but you've got to meet them. Right? And you meet them in a pub and you have a few beers and you know that whole sort of and then they start for you. Right? So they start for you and they're used to you going out and drinking because the first place you met them was in a pub and you had a few beers and you got drunk and had a laugh and all that sort of stuff. So, and then factor in clients. All clients want to be entertained, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, football, rugby, lunches, dinners. And then factor in your friends and your golf holidays and all that sort of stuff. All of a sudden, you're in this world where alcohol is the number one thing that you rely upon to celebrate, to commiserate, to socialise, just because.
Yeah.
So, I think by the time I got to my the businesses that I've just exited, I think I was probably about 3 or 4 years in when I just needed to stop the ride and get off a bit. You know, I'd flirted with it quite a bit. So a month, everyone has January off, don't they?
Yeah.
Everyone does the dry January, but you're always hanging on for that to that last day.
Yeah.
You know? And then I'd done a couple of 3-month stints. But even then, you're focused on the end, right? Everyone's focused on that last day. You're like, that's the target. Have to get there. And so I sort of knew that I was on this journey of like change almost.
Yeah.
And then I went to Scotland for one of my cousin's weddings, and a fantastic weekend, loads of family, loads of laughs. But as always, you overcook it, right? It's a weekend. I remember coming home with my wife and just saying to Deborah, I've got to stop this. I can't feel like this anymore. You know, we had to fly home from Edinburgh, and it was just awful, you know.
Anxiety.
It was horrendous. And I said to her, I'm going to do a year off. In fact, we were in a pub when I said it, having a pint on the way home to see the kids. And I said, this is going to be my last pint for at least 12 months. And I jumped onto the 1 year no beer.
Yeah.
Mr. Ramage at the time, whom I've known for many years, was running at the time a pretty successful sort of alcohol-free middle lane drinker Facebook page. So I jumped on that, and I think it was really around that time that things started to really go well within the business.
Right.
I've done everything in that year. The family holidays, the mates golf weekends, the weddings, the funerals, the birthdays, all of the socialising was done without drink.
Yeah.
So I ticked loads and loads of boxes. It was they didn't never be all of them stories that you used to tell yourself around. I need to have a drink because I'm going out with my mates tonight. All disappeared because clearly I didn't need to have a drink because I'm still living my life. And the biggest story I told myself was that if I didn't drink, I'd lose staff and I'd lose clients. And actually, the turnover of the business doubled that year. Headcount increased. My relationship with my staff improved.
Mm-hmm.
Probably lost a couple, but it wasn't as devastating as a story as I was telling myself. So, things were going really, really well, and I was really enjoyed being alcohol free. Really enjoyed taking that decision away. There was no longer a conversation around shall I have a drink tonight or shall I not. It just wasn't there. And once everyone accepts that, people. I mean, initially it's tough because I don't know about you, but I was a celebrated drunk, right? I was pretty good at it. Like I'd spent probably a good 30 years honing my trade, right? I mean, I could go out and get drunk really well. Right?
Yeah, like you was the life and soul,
100%.
life and soul of the party. Right.
First one in the bar, last one in the bar.
Yeah.
Right? Carb was always there, and I always made friends on a night out. So that was a challenge.
Collect friends.
Oh, of course.
I'd collect friends.
Yeah.
You collect friends.
Way,
You just collect friends on a night out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then so you're sort of fighting against that a bit with your friends and your family, and you're not having a drink. What? You're going to be as much fun tonight if they have a drink. Them sorts of conversations, but they soon disappear when people realise that that it's not going to change you. And then COVID hit us. So I think my year ended in the April of, was it 2018? Was it?
No, 2020.
2020.
2020. COVID.
That's right. Yeah. So the April of when it kicked in is when my year was up. So of course, you've done a year. You've proved to yourself and everyone else that you're not an alcoholic. Because that's one of the things you ask. Is it like if I can't do a year, then there's something wrong somewhere. Then what? I've done a year. So what do I do now? And it's COVID. Everyone's indoors, and the sun was shining. It was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, I went out and got myself some San Miguel's and sat down and got drunk like everybody else in the world.
Sounds like someone else. Yeah.
But my relationship had changed.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't really know how or why it had changed. I just knew that it had changed. I didn't want to go back to sitting in pubs for sort of 5-6 hours or whatever. Yeah. Living that sort of life. So, but I never really addressed it. I just knew I'd done a year off and I was all right with that.
Yeah.
So I sort of flirted with it a bit throughout COVID. But COVID was great for me. I mean, I know this is really controversial because I know a lot of people had an absolute nightmare and it was horrendous for loads of people. But for me, it was great. All of that stress and worry that you have of running a business, just for the first time in my entire business running life, it stopped. My debt was being collected. Staff were quite happily tucked in at home. Yeah. I had my family in my house. No clients to worry about. I had no staff to worry about. I had no debt to worry about. I remember thinking, gosh, this is what life must really feel like. It must, isn't that nice? It's nice to feel like this all of the time. And I didn't want it to end. I think I got to a point with my wife where obviously COVID did end and we had to get back to the office and start earning money again. But the whole sort of bringing the staff back into the office, start the responsibility again, start ramping your debt up again, start dealing with clients again, start that whole
Yeah.
thing. I was sort of ambivalent to it all, really. Obviously, I've done it because that's what you do, you know. And as a responsible business owner, you've got to get your staff back to work, and you've got to start pushing the brand forward and building again. So we did. Yeah, we got back into the office, and we sort of pushed forward and enjoyed 2 pretty amazing years, to be perfectly honest. I think everyone enjoyed that kind of COVID bounce.
Post-COVID high, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. But I couldn't get out of my head how nice it had felt not having the pressures of running a business.
So in your book, or your long document at the moment,
Manuscript,
monologue, whatever you want to call it.
Don't call me an author.
Right.
Yet.
I nearly did, by the way, but I held back. You talk about this concept of middle lane coping.
Yeah.
And as I was reading it through, obviously how we got to know each other as well. So there's a common alignment in our journeys and the things that we've experienced. But I found myself resonating with this middle lane coping concept. It'd be great for you to share like what that was for you and what middle lane coping was at that time in your life and where you was. Because I think there's a lot of founders of businesses that will resonate with that exact feeling that you had, and I would think it's important that message gets shared to people that would be listening.
Yeah, good. It's a really important message because, you know, there's sort of extremes in business, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, you've got. I'll tell you what it was. It was a quote that Alain de Botton made, and he quoted around the best men.
Yeah.
He says the best men are men that have been broken, men that have had to reach out and admit that they can't carry on with this facade, and that they need some help, right? And he's absolutely right. It's such an important thing to say, is that, you know, just because you've reached a point of this perceived brokenness, I think there's something heroic in that. Right, you're getting to a point where you're going, can someone help me out here, please? Because I'm really struggling.
I resonate very much with that, by the way.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah, I think it's there's something heroic about that.
Yeah.
But I think the guys in the middle of that, right? You've got that kind of that kind of scale of people, founders and just generally people. That particularly founders that really are in it up to their neck. They're coping. You know, they're not living their life. They're just coping with everything that gets thrown at them, and they don't quite get to that point where they break.
Yeah.
Where they go, can you help me, please? Because I need the help. Because they don't. You can't do that. I don't want to dismiss the plight of the female mental health issue, because I've got 3 daughters and a wife, but trust me, it's definitely relevant.
Yeah.
But I think as men, particularly in business, we find it very, very hard to put our hand up and ask for help for lots and lots of reasons. The main reason being ego.
Yeah.
But the reasons that I didn't put my hands up and ask for help was because genuinely didn't think anybody could help me.
Right.
Genuinely didn't think that talking to anybody about my problems would have made a blind bit of difference. So I'm very much, well, if no one's going to help me, I'm not going to walk through the door and tell my wife that I'm having a really tough time and can you help me with this, or this is happening in the business today. You know, cash flow's crap. Not quite sure we're going to make payroll this month, because you can't offer any tangible help, right? There's so much of that in the world.
Yeah.
And I think the suicide rates in particularly in men that are business owners exponentially goes up. And yeah, I need to champion that, I think. And I think we need to just talk more.
Yeah.
I think we need to just, you know, if I could do my time again, it would be to talk more. It would be just to admit that I don't know everything.
Yeah, I think part of it is a bit of an inspiration as to why I'm setting up doing what I'm doing in terms of the Ultimate Founder piece, because I think loneliness sits right alongside those things. And that's not lonely that you don't have your family around you. It's loneliness in your head. Being a founder with responsibility, accountability, staff, expectations, both external and internal to yourself, it's really lonely.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that loneliness, it can be solved with just a conversation, or just being around someone else that says, I know how you feel. I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
It really is. And so for you, this kind of what you're championing now, how has it sort of manifested in your life? So what have you done in your life since you've kind of had that epiphany moment, continue to not drink? Like, what does it all mean for you now on reflection?
I mean, my life's changed inexplicably, that's the right word, in the last 2 years, really. I think because I made the decision to address my relationship with alcohol, that in turn gives you more clarity straight off the bat.
Yeah.
It allows you to explore other things that are going on in your mind. You come out of survival mode, which is, if you're a middle lane drinker, you're drinking, Wednesday through to Sunday or Thursday through to Sunday, whatever your habits are, whether that's a glass of wine every couple of days or whatever, you're a middle lane drinker. You're in survival mode a bit because you're not sleeping properly. You're not training as hard as you want to train. You get up in the morning and you've not really got any sort of mental space to do anything other than think about what's in your diary for the day.
Yeah.
Got to get to the office, got to manage this problem, got to manage that problem. You don't really give yourself any sort of time to reflect on your life and where you're going as a human being, or as a father, as a husband, as a person, as a man. So stopping drinking gave me that that clarity to be able to sit back and work out where I want to go, what's next for me. And I'm going to come back to the point I made about COVID and how nice it was to not have the responsibility of running a business. And I couldn't get away from that. I just couldn't get away from that. I kept coming back to that point. That started the journey of exit. That started me looking at, well, how am I going to exit this business? How am I going to get back to that point in time where I can have the peace that I had in COVID? And I suppose that's really when the coaching piece kicked in. So the exit was always kind of bubbling away, and there were conversations going with people left, right, and centre, and as there always is when you're looking for it.
But the exit for me didn't. So there's a lot of people, and it's non-judgmental here, is they want the exit for the financial element, but it sounds like for me, for you it was the peace.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was like the freedom of peace and mental clarity, rather than I've got to hit this number or I've got to hit this. It sounds very much more inner. Do you know what I mean? So
we had the COVID boom. It was great. Everyone was printing money. It was a great place to be. I still wasn't happy.
Yeah.
But when you're making lots of money, it sort of doesn't matter. It resonates. It sort of disappears a little bit. Although there were still conversations going on, I wasn't really pushing it too hard. And then the world started to implode again. Interest rates going up, inflation going up, everything going up in the world. And I could see it all happening again. Like I could see the credit crisis happening again.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's where the sort of start of my book is, in that, I didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to go back into that office and then start making them redundancies, close down offices that I would have to have closed down, having them conversations, getting back to managing cash flow, all the stuff that I've been through 2 or 3 times in my career. So I simply didn't want to do it, Danny.
No.
But as a founder, as the owner, what are your choices? you're trapped, right?
Yeah.
You've got and I've always been this guy that has always said, if you don't like it, change it.
Yep.
Whatever it is in your life, whatever you're doing, if you don't like it, change it. And I'm sitting in my car outside my house on my drive, and I can't change it. I don't like it, but I can't change it. I can't walk away. I've got to, in some capacity, work a way through this. And that bit was pretty horrendous. And I didn't realise how horrendous it was until I'd actually exited the business, because most founders have got this facade that they just put up, don't they?
Yep.
Well, you've got no choice, mate. You've just got to do it. And that's the conversation you have with yourself. What are you going to do? You can't resign.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to manage your way through it.
Yep.
What had changed in me in that moment was, I don't care what this business is worth anymore. I don't care what the enterprise value might be.
Yeah.
I'll give it away. If it gets me out of this business, I'll give it away.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was talked out of that because there was a transaction that had to take place for that to happen, right? But you're absolutely right. My driver wasn't about the money. It genuinely wasn't. It was about the freedom that I was looking to gain from the exit. That changed the landscape entirely for me.
Right.
It changed the people that would be interested in buying the business, because the price wasn't set by any kind of multiple minus debt conversation. It was like, well, there it is. That's the number. If you'd like to pitch for it, feel free.
Yeah.
But for me, the driver was all about getting out, living the next part of my life. And gladly managed to do that in October last year.
I sort of read partly something that struck me last night was when you talk about meaning and purpose. And you can have that monetary aspect, but it still doesn't change self-worth. I think you refer to meaning.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting because I think there is such an attachment. You can't resolve some of those things with a big check. Yes, it can be an enabler, it can support, but when you talk about meaning and purpose, have you found a different type of meaning now? Or have you found the meaning on the purpose that you always was probably striving for?
I think I said this to you at the retreat as well, and I'm still a little bit like it now, and that is that I don't know what I want to do for the next part of my life. Mm-hmm. I just know what I don't want to do. Right. And I think that's all right. I think it's all right to know what you don't want to do. Right. And that was the catalyst for me making the decision that I made. I knew that running the businesses that I had just didn't align with where I want to go in my life. Yeah. Purpose and meaning is important, and I coach. Yeah. Right. And I love that. That really feeds my soul. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's yes, there was a transaction. Yes, there was some finances that were transferred, if you want to call it that. And what was really interesting about that was that you're on a high because, and again, it wasn't that I was on a high because I was free. Right? Yeah. I had no responsibilities. Staff had gone, debt had gone. Yeah. HMRC payments had gone. PAYE payments, everything was gone, right? So it was just me on my own. So incredibly happy for a month or so. And then sort of your homeostasis level sort of kicks in, and you come back to this point where you're like, all right, well, that was great. What next? Yeah. What are you going to do next? And things just kept stopping me in my tracks. Like literally. Now that comment I made about Alain de Botton's phrase just kept stopping me. I kept resonating with me to the point where it would make me, it'd have me in tears. Right. Right. And I just didn't know why. couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why someone that's achieved the goal that he wanted to achieve was unhappy. What have you got to be unhappy about? And I think the work that I do with some founders now, you start to realise why that is,
Yeah.
because it's no longer about chasing the money.
Yeah.
It's more about what's next in your life.
And how do you, so based on your experience and the work that you do now, how do you help people navigate that? What's the process for you? Is it just a case of sort of dialing in and listening to them, or is it a case of you talking them through your experiences?
You've got to extract from the founder two things. The first thing is you need to understand that this is what you do for a living.
Yeah.
That's what you pay the bills. This is who you are.
Yeah.
All right. So it's almost like this octopus that's kind of strapped itself around you. You've got to prise yourself back away from this guy over here, because when you start at that level, you're almost dealing with the problem before it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So then I work with the founder on who he or she is.
Yeah.
What foundations are you built on? What values have you got? What are you doing? What you're not doing enough of within your own life?
Yeah.
What do you need to do more of in your own life? Like, what makes you happy over here? Because if you've got a really happy founder and home life's great, lifestyle's great, exercising well, hitting your personal goals, then that resonates through into the business. Always, you become a better founder. The business stuff's easy, Danny, as you know.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it's easy when you've done it, right? But
Yeah.
I think they're easy to fix. So if
Yeah.
you've got a business that's struggling in some capacity, they're conversations that are kind of fixable.
Yeah.
The hardest part is dealing with the founder. Is getting that individual to kind of drop the facade that we keep talking about.
Yeah.
Open up about the middle lane coping that you're really struggling with.
Yeah.
I'll sit in the mud with you if you like for an hour. Listen to what you've got to say.
Yeah.
And the thing with coaching is it's not about having the answers. It's all about skillful questioning and just helping people to think differently about their lives or their decisions or their goals.
And I think like what you're saying there with this kind of, it kind of is like two identities in some ways.
Yeah.
For a founder. You've got the I am the founder identity, and then you've got I am the dad, parent, husband, partner, friend identity. And there's sometimes is this clash of like that person who's the business owner still is business owner when they're over the family. I think it's really interesting because if you talk to founders, one of the biggest things founders want to talk about is how do I scale, grow, hit the next number. That's the thing that that kind of excites people. If you sometimes talk to founders and go, how do you want to spend your time at the weekend? And by the way, I was guilty as charged as being that person as well, and rather than going, okay, so how do you want to be over here first and then build your business around the other side? And I think it's a conversation that absolutely, and hopefully starting with this, needs to happen more, is start with all of the non-business factors in some ways and then retrofit into the business. So now, I guess now with you and where you're at, alcohol free still?
Yeah.
How many years?
I mean, a couple of years, probably my 50th was kind of a bit of on my 50th birthday, I actually started my coaching diploma. Right. So up until that point, although I had addressed my relationship with alcohol probably 7 years ago, and I was moving towards the right place, I hadn't really dealt with it. I hadn't really understood what was going on with that relationship. Like,
Yeah.
what did it give me? What did it take away from me? Like, what effect what effect does it have on you when you
Yeah.
consume alcohol? And then what effect does that have on the rest of your business
Yeah.
and your personal life? So I didn't really hit that head on until 2 years ago,
Right.
really. And that's the really, I mean, that's the strange thing about, I suppose, how my mind works, right? So although I'm saying to myself, nobody can help me, nobody can fix me. No, well, not that I was broken, but nobody can offer the support that I need to feel better. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'll just have to fix myself.
Yeah.
I have to sort this out.
Yeah.
Because I think around the time where things started to change in my business and things started to drop off, people have said to me since then, I could see a marked difference in you. You know, you did slip down
Right.
to what you might call as a depression for a while,
Right.
Because I didn't want to do it. Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but you're trapped. You're in that situation. You're like, I just don't want to do this anymore. So, I think in my own warped mind, I was like, right, I've got to fix this.
Right.
How do I fix this? How do I coach myself out of this
Yeah.
kind of place that I find myself in? So yet again, Andy Ramage appears in the shape of a coaching diploma. So, and that was just when my life changed exponentially again. You know, like that self analysis that you do and that work you do as a coach within the boundaries of that work, it just changed my life massively. And it was within the realms of that made me realise that I just can't keep doing this job anymore. I've got to leave. Right. So and that was a catalyst for me saying, well, I don't care what it's worth. Let's just get out. Whatever that might look like. So
2 years in terms of alcohol free since how many years?
Yeah,
now?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. 2.5 years. Would you say that decision there, like, you know, you have sort of points in your life where you make some big decisions and you're at a crossroads. Would you say that there was the turning point towards the exit? And if you hadn't have made that decision, do you still think the exit would have happened?
No, it wouldn't have happened. No, because you're just in survival mode. I think when you self-reflect and you do some introspection work on yourself, you don't do that if you're out 3 nights a week.
No.
You know, you just don't, because you're hungover and all you're worried about is getting up and getting to work, or getting up and dealing with the kids or whatever it is that you're doing. So you don't give yourself the space to really think about what you want in life.
Yeah.
So if you want to track it all back, you know, to a point in time where my life became better, it was when I addressed my relationship with alcohol.
Yeah. Amazing.
And since then, it's just got better and better and better. And you know, we met on a retreat in Ibiza.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, like, let's just have a minute about that, right? So if you'd have said to me 2.5 years ago, right, that I would be a coach, right, that's been on a retreat to Ibiza, that's written a book, that's sitting in a podcast talking about being an exited founder, I'd have laughed myself stupid. So let's just have a moment to sort of enjoy that for a second.
Yeah, well, I'd say just like...
But all of that, right, stems from me stopping drinking.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you said earlier, you know, if you if you don't change something, if you don't do something about it, nothing's going to change.
If you don't like it, change it.
If you don't like it, change it. And you know, you didn't like it, but it became a point where you made that decision, and from that decision, kind of the universe, as they say, has taken its course for you, right?
Yeah.
You know, we wouldn't be sitting here hadn't we met each other, sitting, you know, on that day in Ibiza and went through that experience together. So a question I do have for you, because I think there's so many people that do talk about the exit and they really eulogise about this sort of, I've got to wear the T-shirt. What's your advice to someone now? What would you say if you're a founder of a business and you are thinking about that exit? What would your advice be to that person sitting there in front of you?
That's a really good question. And I think it would be to not ruminate so heavily over the number.
Right.
There'll be a few things, actually. That'd be the first thing, right? The second thing would be, don't worry about what you're going to do after. Because so many founders I speak to that won't exit, want to exit, but can't exit because they're worried about, what am I going to do next? It happens. I mean, nearly once a week, I'll have a call with somebody that's either wanting to exit or exiting. And it's always the first question. What am I going to do after?
Yeah.
You know, and my response is always the same. Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Whatever you want. It's not about, we can become so hung up on, you know, we wear that jacket and that facade that we've got around us, that we carry around with us, that we are this is all we are. You know, it's not, is it?
No.
You know, you're a husband, a wife, a son, a daughter, an experienced businessman, you know, business person. What do you want to do after?
Yeah.
Where do you want to go with your life? If you couldn't fail, where would you go, Danny?
One of the best questions I think you can ever ask.
What
decision would you make if you knew you wouldn't fail? It's probably one, because you'll go, oh, everything's built around the fear of failure.
Yeah. If you strip it all back, we're all just scared little boys and girls, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's the bottom line. We're just all scared about what might happen. We're scared about losing our business. We're scared about exiting our business. We're scared about what people might think about us. We're scared about what we think about ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think once you've gone through that mindset shift into a place of being curious, being, you know, what will be type world, where there's, you know, if you fail, failure is just a lesson, right? The best business people, the best leaders, the best sports people, you know, are the ones that have had it go wrong on the biggest stages. Now you look at some of the, you know, look at football. Now you see some of the biggest teams that win trophies is they've had to experience the pain of failure to get there. And I'm a big believer in, you know, trying to just, you know, do it and see what happens and iterate.
I'd rather miss my goals, Danny.
Yeah,
I'd rather
absolutely.
not achieve I'd rather set a goal and not hit it than consistently hit my goals.
Yeah,
Because how challenging can life be if you're hitting your goals every single time? You know, you got to miss them. You got to fail. You got to fall over. You got to pick up again. You got to pick yourself up again.
yeah,
As painful as that is at the time, and as awful as it is to sort of tell yourself that you've got to go and do it again, you know, you will look back and be grateful for the lessons that you've learned and where it's brought you today.
yeah. Brilliant. And life now, so coaching.
Yeah, load of coaching. Doing loads of that. Lots of really interesting people. And that's the great thing about coaching, right?
Yeah.
Is that you meet some fantastic people, you know,
Yeah.
and you're all in the same boat effectively. You know, you've got people that really have reached that point where they're stuck.
Yeah,
You know, they really want to change, but they don't know how to change. It's that old adage about, you know what you know.
yeah,
We all know what we know, and we look at the world through the map that we've got. My map's different to your map's different to everyone's map. So unless someone's challenging you on that map and the way you think about things, you're always going to do the same thing, right? It's always going to carry on in the same vein. So when you work with somebody or somebody accepts that they want to coach and they want to change, the growth that you see and the journey that you get on with those people, it's great. It's where my purpose and meaning comes from.
love it. I have one final question for you. So obviously the title of this podcast is The Ultimate Founder. I have a view in my mind of what I perceive that to be. In your mind, what comes to you when you think about the ultimate founder?
I see a picture of your face there, Danny.
Thank you.
So, I mean, that's a really good question. And I don't think there is one ultimate founder. I think the ultimate founder is the person that admits very early on that he doesn't want to be the smartest guy in the room. I think he or she wants to get some depth on their board and learn from those individuals from day one. So in an ideal world, if you're saying that the money's not a problem and you've got a founder with a great idea and a great CV and he surrounds themselves with 3 or 4 excellent coaches with years of experience in various sectors, or you've got the founder that just cracks on their own, who's likely to succeed? The one that's not the smartest one in the room.
Yeah.
Always, right? And I look at people like James Caan, I look at people like Tim Cook at Engage, big recruitment company, look at Tristan Ramos at 2020 Capital, all these guys that are, incredibly successful, done really, really well. I absolutely guarantee you that even now, they're not the smartest people in the room. They'll be surrounded by people that are very, very good at what they do. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does.
I just want to, are we wrapping up?
Yeah, we're nearly there.
There's something that I heard, Chris Williamson, I've got a bit of a man crush on Chris Williamson,
Okay.
right? I'll be honest.
If you listen to this, Chris.
Yeah. When you listen to it, Chris, I'm available.
Yeah.
And there's something I just want to say, because I think it's really relevant and really important in this day and age. And these 3 sentences I heard on the plane back from Ibiza, right?
Right.
And when I say I was in floods of tears, I mean, like, the person sitting next to me asked me if I was all right.
Really?
And she wasn't all right. She just spent a weekend in Ibiza doing what she was doing. So these 3 sentences, I think, if you've got someone in your life that's a founder, or someone in your life that's working hard and really pushing forward, I think by saying these 3 sentences to them, I'm hoping that you encourage a conversation, a vulnerable conversation around how they're feeling. Right? Here we go. And I'm going to try and say them without breaking down, because every time I try and say these 3 sentences, it really resonates with me. And I don't know why, because I had this conversation with Deb and she said, had I said them to you, how would that have changed your life? And I said, I'd have broken down if you'd have said these 3 things to me, and we would have had a really deep conversation about how I feel. It wouldn't have potentially changed a great deal, but it would have probably just brought us, not that we need to be brought closer together, but closer together from a really kind of emotional point of view. Right? I'd have dropped my facade. I'd have had to, because I wouldn't have got to the end of this without having to. So here we go. I know that you can be more, but you're enough already. Even if you stay as you are, I'll be right by your side. You're going to be great, but you don't have to be great. Now, if those 3 sentences are said to somebody, anybody, I feel like it will just start a conversation that is deep and meaningful and helpful.
Wow. I think everyone could deal with hearing that, because it means so much, isn't it? Just hearing
3 sentences,
hearing it.
Say it to your husband, say it to your wife.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Williamson comes at it from a point of view of men's mental health, and the statistic's scary, right? It's 94% of men that kill themselves have reached out to the services, right? 94%. And let's not slur on the services. I think they do an amazing job, right? But the problem's bigger than that, isn't it? Like the problem starts at home. The problem starts somewhere else. And I think if we say these 3 sentences, does it allow people to be more vulnerable in the moment? And does it stop one person from thinking about taking their own life? I don't know.
For me, I'm a massive advocate of men's mental health, because I feel that there is a massive issue in society. I feel there is an issue for the younger generation.
Yeah.
and more needs to be done. I've got other businesses and friends of mine that are championing that cause in a good way through fitness and through their mission about bringing and uniting men together. So, I think more needs to be done. I think there's bigger conversation that needs to be had. I know there's some really good communities that are being built now for men to join, where it's okay to have a conversation. But just hearing that, for me, I am enough.
It's so important, isn't it?
I am enough.
Just to hear that from your husband or your wife. And like I said, if my wife had said that to me in the moment where I needed it, I'm getting upset now thinking about what that would have done to me in the moment, right? So, I feel that. Don't hold back. Say them 3 sentences. If you think the person that you're close to, that's on a journey, on a founder's journey, or just say them 3 sentences. See where that gets you.
Matthew, Matt,
Daniel.
Thank you, my friend.
As always, it's a pleasure.
Thank you for having you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. And, a bit emotional at the end there. Thank you.
Cheers mate.
Just sweaty hands. Cheers.